Welcome to Wife in Bloom, the podcast where faith, femininity, and fierce love collide. I'm Ashley, a Christian wife and mom, but mostly a woman on a mission to help you break free from shame, insecurity, and limiting beliefs, so you can fully embrace the confident, capable, and joy-filled wife that God created you to be. Here, we talk about real intimacy, renewed mindsets, and growing stronger in marriage and in Christ. If you're ready to bloom where you're planted, love with purpose, and finally feel at home in your body, your role, and your calling, you're in the right place. Let's bloom together. Hey girl, welcome back to Wife in Bloom, the podcast for Christian women who are ready to grow, heal, and bloom into the wives that God created them to be. I am your host, Ashley, and today we're going to talk about something a little lighthearted, a little spicy, and honestly holy. We are talking about flirting with forever because, listen, somewhere between soccer games, work shifts, grocery lists, laundry piles, and honestly trying to keep your eyes open long enough to finish your next Netflix episode, we can start to forget that marriage is supposed to be fun, not just functional, not just faithful, but fun. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to just make it to the end of my marriage. I really want to enjoy every single season of it. So today we're going to talk about what it means to keep your marriage playful, to intentionally flirt your way through forever, even when life gets heavy, busy, and complicated. But before we jump in, can I ask you a quick favor? If this podcast encourages you, helps you, or even makes you laugh once in a while, hit the follow button, share this episode to your story, or send it to another wife who could use a reminder that marriage can still feel fun. You know, every share, every review, every time that you show up, it helps more women find this space. So thank you for helping me grow this little garden called Wife in Bloom. All right, let's get into it. So today, like I said, we're talking about flirting with forever, because that's what we signed up for, right? Is forever, but forever can be a long time if we're not having a good time, right? You ever have those seasons where everything's okay, but it's busy? You're not fighting, you're not drifting, you're just tired. It's just okay. We've been there. There have been several seasons of this. I mean, we have some life under our belts. Carson and I were working opposite shifts for a while, to the extent that he would come to see me at my job when he got home in the morning, and then he would go home and sleep, and then he would wake up and come see me in the late afternoon, and then back to work he would go. There, we were both juggling kids, home, work, and life, and it felt like we were really running the relay race called adulthood. He would hand me the baton and I would sprint until it was time to tag him back in. We have had seasons where we've ran several businesses. One business where we both would put in 12 to 15 hours some days. And we've had seasons of exhausting kiddos. Our second born is amazing. Literally such a sweet, funny, smart, incredibly talented, amazing girl. Yet she has had some seasons where she took a lot of our attention, like 24/7 from birth to 7. Now she only needs me like 27, so we're making progress. But seriously, we've all had plenty of those seasons, right? And any one of those times, we were fine. Actually, we were good. But good started feeling a little mechanical, like we were managing life together instead of living it. And I remember thinking that we didn't necessarily need to fix anything, but we did need to feed it. Like, if marriage is a garden, we can't just keep admiring the flowers from last season. We have to water it. We have to plant new things. You hear about it all the time. You have to put into your marriage first, even in the seasons of kids or whatever the case may be, so that in the instance of kids, they don't leave only for you to realize that you have a roommate instead of a spouse because of years of those seasons. I've heard it over and over, yet here we were letting the same thing happen to us. We were in love, happy and good, but not putting any actual intention into our marriage at all. It's wild how that can happen, right? The person you once couldn't stop giggling with, couldn't stop touching, couldn't stop thinking about, suddenly becomes your co-manager in the business of running a home. And that's when I realized something. Marriages don't lose spark because people stop loving each other. They lose that spark. They lose it because people stop flirting with each other. One night after work, I caught my reflection in the mirror, tired, sweatpants on, and I kind of laughed at myself. And I thought about the fact that I had grown in so many areas, but am I growing as a wife? Not as in doing more chores or being more put together, but in loving better, in listening deeper, in being more intentional. It wasn't shame, it was clarity, and I realized that I wanted to show up for this part of my life in the same passion that I bring everywhere else. Like being a mom, my businesses, my personal goals. I want that passion for growth in my marriage. And that's all that it took. I don't know the exact moment, but I told Carson that I wanted to start being more intentional about our marriage, our time, our effort in our marriage, our flirting. And he loves when I get passionate about anything, and he's super supportive of that. But if anything is about us, like him and I, it's a whole different thing because he loves us. So that tiny little spark was enough to remind both of us that we wanted more. And not because we were lacking, but because we were growing. We are both the kind of people who believe in more faith, more depth, more laughter, more connection. And we decided that we weren't going to wait until something was broke to build it stronger. That's when we started playing again. And I mean, literally playing in some aspects. A lot of our initial flirting intentions came from those like silly little marriage game printables from the Dating Divas. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. Check them out. I think I found one on Pinterest one day when I likely should have been doing something else more important, I'm sure. But I printed it, we did it, and we had a great time every single time we did one of those printables. It was easy, and it reminded me that joy didn't take perfect timing, it just took intention. And we downloaded a few apps over time, like Ultimate Intimacy and Paired, and before you roll your eyes, like they worked. Not because they're magic, but because they gave us like an easy excuse to connect. Ultimate Intimacy is great because there's conversation starters, a language of love quiz, intimacy games, a calendar, a private chat, position suggestions, the connection to their podcast. Like there's so many things on there. And now that I'm talking about it, we should get back to using it more often. Paired was also a really great app. There's lots of great connecting questions, spicy questions, activities. Honestly, we really enjoyed it during the time that we did that app as well. And sometimes the prompts were easy and thought-provoking, like what is something that your spouse did this week that made you feel loved? And sometimes they were ridiculous, but it was hugely worth the 10 to 15 minutes that we invested. Do you realize that 10 to 15 minutes of intentional flirtation of growth or growth with your spouse will change everything, yet we think that we're too busy. We started chasing growth on purpose, and I think that's where many couples get stuck. They assume that if nothing's wrong, they don't need to invest. But if you wait for trouble to start tending to your marriage, you're already behind. We didn't want to save our marriage. We wanted to stretch it. And when you start stretching, things wake up. And somewhere in that season, I noticed how different our energy felt. I would be folding the laundry and he'd walk by and run his hand across my back or whisper some sweet nothing. I'd catch myself smiling for no reason just because the air felt light and fun again. And there's something really holy about that, bringing laughter back into a house that was built for love. And you know what? God isn't mad about it. He's not sitting up there saying, tone it down when my husband walks by me and smacks my booty. He designed us for this. The Bible says love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And that little word always, it's an action. It means that love keeps showing up, and flirting is one of those always actions, a way to protect your connection from getting on autopilot. You know, he even built it into our chemistry. We've talked about this before. When you touch your spouse, smile at him, kiss him, even brush his arm, your body releases oxytocin and dopamine, which those happy hormones actually lower stress, increase trust, and strengthen emotional bonding. And that's not coincidence, that's design. So when you sit close, when you grab his hand, when you kiss him in the kitchen, you're not being silly. You're reinforcing a covenant. It's science and it's sacred. So let's talk about how we flirt, because it's honestly so simple. Physical touch is huge for us. We are the couple who's always touching. Hands intertwined in the car, his arm around me, anytime that we're sitting close to each other, his hand on my leg at church, which, speaking of church real quick, we notice all the time how many couples sit apart. And I get it. You're managing kids, you're bookending your little ones, trying to survive the service. But really, really sit next to your husband when you can. Make flirting easy by changing the environment, because proximity creates possibility. I'll lean on his head or lean on his shoulder during prayer. And sometimes I'll feel him exhale, and that one tiny connection makes all the noise fade away. We're one in that moment, even if only for a tiny moment. It's sad. We notice couples all the time that don't seem to touch a lot. And I'm not judging. It just breaks my heart a little, because that's the easiest thing to give back to your marriage. Touch is free and the return on investment is huge. We also make a point to smile at each other. I know that sounds like it's too simple to matter, but it matters. When he walks into a room, I look up and I smile, and not because I'm trying to look like a Stepford wife, but because I like him. It's this unspoken, I see you, I love you, you're my peace. And that look, it changes the energy faster than 1,000 words. And don't underestimate words. We are really intentional about kindness, genuine compliments, and gratitude and affirmation. We're also playful, but super cautious in that. We'll tease each other a little, but you got to be careful with your tone, because banter can build connection or it can break it. You can't playfully jab your way into intimacy. Proverbs 18:21 says, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Your words are never neutral. They are either building or tearing down. So before you joke with your spouse or respond to your spouse, ask, will this make him feel desired or dismissed? A good rule is, if it doesn't bring us closer, it's probably not worth saying, because flirting is light and sarcasm is heavy. And I think sometimes we forget how powerful our mouths are. Every word that we speak over our spouse is a seed, and we get to decide what grows. So I try to make sure that my words that I tell Carson are truth about who he is. A good man, steady, funny, wanted, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. And there's texting. Don't sleep on texting. It takes 2 seconds to send an I want you, or even just a I think you're sexy text. Not a paragraph, not a novel, just 3 words. And yeah, 12 years in, it still works, sometimes better. Because what that text says is, I see you not just as a partner in this life, but I see you as my man. And one day I texted something that either alluded or straight said that I was feeling a little spicy, a little needy, if you will. And he replied with a funny GIF. And since then, he replies with that same GIF most anytime I send anything similar. And I giggle like a teenager every single time that he sends the silly GIF. And honestly, I think that's beautiful. You can be a grown woman with a mortgage and still get the butterflies. You can be overwhelmed with gratitude for the goober that God gave you, GIFs and all, and still find him wildly attractive, which both of those things are great for flirting. You can change the rhythm. Flirting gets easier when you shake up the routine a little bit. Try new things together. Both of you get out of your element. Cook something different, play a game, take a drive. We love to flirt during ordinary stuff like folding the laundry or washing dishes, brushing past each other in the kitchen. And sometimes it's a look, sometimes it's a touch, and sometimes it's just the way he says hi when he looks at me, and I still get that flutter in my stomach because it's not new, but because it's us. And something that I've learned that I really want to share is that you don't need to go back to how it used to be. You're not the same people that you were when you got married, and that's a good thing. So many marriage experts and gurus say, do what you used to do to bring back the spark. And I'm over here like, no thanks. That old spark, while wonderful, was built on novelty. This one's built on knowing, deep knowing. You don't want to recreate your beginning. You want to create something better. Carson and I have been married a dozen years now, and I can say with complete confidence, that he flirts with me in ways that now reach my soul. He knows the sounds of my sighs. He knows the looks on my face. He knows when I'm overwhelmed, the things that make me laugh so hard that I can't breathe. And I know what his silence means and what touches help and what words help calm. That kind of spark doesn't flutter, it glows. It's steady, it's sure, it blooms. It's belonging. It's the physical action of saying, I choose you. It's love that has lived some hard life and still says you're my person. And that's the beauty of flirting with forever. It's not about keeping things hot. It's about keeping things holy and alive. And let's talk about the faith side of it for a second, because I can't not bring Jesus into this. Flirting with your husband isn't just for fun. It's actually a form of stewardship. You are stewarding the connection that God gave you. You're tending the garden of your marriage, planting seeds of affection, watering it with kindness, and keeping it alive with laughter and touch. When you flirt with your spouse, you're saying, I'm still pursuing you, just like God keeps pursuing me. That's powerful. Because love doesn't run out, it only deepens. And physical intimacy, emotional connection, spiritual unity, they all feed off of each other. The more intentional you are with the small things, the stronger your foundation becomes when the big storms hit. And I really believe that God smiles when he sees his kids delighting in each other. Like, yes, that is what I meant when I said to become one. When we flirt, we are protecting that oneness from the weight of the outside world. We're saying this marriage is still alive and it is a priority. And that's what I want you to remember today, is that you can still love Jesus deeply and crave your husband, and that you can serve the Lord through sending that flirty text. You can be holy and have chemistry. These weren't things that were meant to compete. They were meant to complement. When we have faith and, fun in opposite corners, the enemy wins because it makes marriage look boring. But when we put faith and fun together, that's joy, that's testimony. And let me talk to the wife who's thinking, Ashley, I want to flirt with my husband, but it feels so awkward now. Girl, I get it. I'm the queen of awkward. The queen of awkward. And we all get a little rusty when we've been in survival mode. But rust doesn't mean ruined. It just means that you need a little oil, a little lubrication to get started. So, with one tiny thing today, you can change that. Touch his hand while you pass him the coffee. Walk up and rub his shoulders for a minute when he's sitting at the table. Smile when he walks in. You don't have to make a big announcement about it. Just begin. Momentum in marriage doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from the tiny daily ones. Every small move of affection can change the whole atmosphere. And don't wait for him to go first because you're blooming. Because you're the woman who is learning to water what she wants to grow. You're not begging him to do something. You're building the marriage that you want. And let's circle back to the practical real quick because I love giving tangible things to do. So a few of my favorite simple ways to flirt, because they really are very simple, is look at him first. When he walks in, glance up from what you're doing and give him your eyes and a smile. Touch often, and not just about when you're, gonna get intimate or getting into bed. A hand on his chest when you walk by, or a head on his shoulder when you watch TV. Touch him saying that I see you. Use your words. Tell him something specific that you love about him, like you make me feel safe, or you look really good in that shirt, or thank you. Send one unexpected text this week. Nothing fancy, just a playful reminder that he's desired. Sit in public together. Be the couple that still leans in close at church or at the restaurant. It reminds the world and each other that marriage is beautiful. And none of these take money, any huge planning, or any real time. They just take intention. There is a different kind of attraction that grows when you nurture connection. When I lean into Carson and I breathe in that mix of beard balm, coffee, and swagger Old Spice deodorant, I swear my whole body exhales gratitude, because that is what covenant feels like. That is safety that still sizzles. And that's why I call it flirting with forever. Because forever isn't built on one big promise. It's built on 1,000 small invitations to stay close. So maybe today you need to reset that rhythm. Maybe you've been stuck in the we're fine mode. And maybe you're carrying resentment that you need to let go of, or you're just tired. Whatever it is, I want you to hear this with gentleness. You can start flirting with your spouse any day you choose. No one has to declare it a date night. You can start while you're unloading the dishwasher. You can start by sending that spicy little text. You can start by reaching for his hand on the couch. Love is not something that happens to us. It's something that we practice. When Paul wrote that love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres, I think he was describing a posture, not a feeling. Like we already discussed, love acts, love moves, love notices, and flirting is just one of those ways that love works in and through us. So here is my challenge for you. Flirt today. Don't wait for date night or for it to feel right. Send the text, touch his arm, kiss him in the kitchen, sit next to him at church, tell him that he looks good. Do one small thing that says, I still choose you. Because flirting isn't about making marriage easier. It's about making it alive. And love, a real covenant love, isn't grand gestures. It's built in the daily decisions, the daily desire, the daily delight. If this episode stirred something in you, share it. Send it to another wife who's ready to bring back the fun in her marriage. Tag me on Facebook or drop an emoji if you are committed to flirting with forever this week. Don't forget to follow Wife in Bloom on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube, and leave a review. And this is how our community grows and reaches more women who need this message, because marriage doesn't have to fade with time. When you water it and when you tend to it, it blooms. And that's what we're here for. Until next time, keep blooming, keep laughing, and keep flirting with forever. Have a wonderful week. Thanks for spending this time with me today, friend. If this episode spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and share it with a friend who's ready to bloom too. We're just getting started, and the best is yet to come. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember, you are loved, you are chosen, and you are not alone.